Well, turning now to the state visit of King Charles to the United States, the monarch is jetting in for a high-stakes four-day tour, which is officially in honour of America's 250th anniversary of independence, of course. His itinerary has reportedly been whittled down to only a handful of on-camera appointments with President Trump, not because of the latest apparent attack on Trump's life, but to limit the risk of the king having to respond to the president's wisecracks about the United Kingdom, or Trump's quips about the state of Britain's navy, and the state of our Prime Minister, as well as a looming Epstein scandal, has the palace on high alert. Joining me to set the scene are King Charlie's Angels, live from the Royals Uncensored HQ, where preparations are well underway for this Thursday's big launch of Royals Uncensored. Katie Nicholl, Joe Elvin and Grant Harrold, welcome to all of you. Katie Nicholl, your apart from anything else, your set looks great. Let me start with you, Katie Nicholl, if I can. People were sort of curious about the level of interest that we were going to have in this visit over here in America. I'm in New York. I've got to say that, interestingly, the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I think, has massively increased interest in the royal visit, because the inevitable question is, well, are they going to be safe while they're here? So it's interesting to see how this story's been morphed into the security scandal that happened on Saturday. How concerned, Katie, do you think King Charles will be about his security on this trip, given what's just happened?
I don't think he'll be overly concerned, Piers, is the honest answer. This is a man who visited the States 19 times as Prince of Wales. This is a man who's, had shots fired at him himself and who has always remained incredibly calm under any situations that are pressurised, quite frankly. We've seen him heckled over here. All right, it's not quite being shot at, but he has been in situations that have been precarious. And whenever I've been on tours with King Charles, whenever I've watched him at close quarters, he never seems bothered by the crowds or anything else. And that is because he puts his absolute trust in his protection officers who are around him. I don't actually think that he gives it a second thought, such as his trust in the men and women around him who are protecting them. And I would make the point that security is going to be paramount. It always is on a tour like this. This is a tour that has had months and months of wrecking behind it. Security will always have been the priority when it comes to the King, but particularly in wake of what has happened at the weekend.
Yeah, Grant Harrold, it's interesting. I was on Fox and Friends over here, and this morning, their big morning show at Fox, and they were asking me about the relationship between King Charles and President Trump. And I said, well, they both share one character trait, which is very noticeable and very, I think, to both their credits, which is they're both remarkably calm under literal fire. We saw it when Trump got hit by a bullet in Pennsylvania, and he got back up and said, fight, fight, fight. We saw it at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he was remarkably calm as it was all going down, and then gave a very chilled out press conference afterwards. And it reminded me of in the mid-90s when Charles, then Prince Charles, was in Sydney, Australia. And we've got a clip here. This is where somebody actually using blanks, it turned out, but attacked him while he was giving a big speech in Australia. Let's take a look. I mean, Charles was kind of laughing and joking pretty quickly after that. Very Trumpian response to somebody trying to potentially take his life. So they do seem to have that in common.
They do, and what's interesting, I know both those close protection officers, and I remember talking about that incident, and they kind of made the point that he is a very kind of calm individual when things go wrong. He's such a pro, as you know, Piers, and that just goes to kind of show. And as you mentioned, with President Trump, it's the same. They both kind of almost take it in the stride. If anything, the King doesn't like the fuss of security. He would rather just do his own thing without being followed around. I mean, quite often, if you're ever up at Highgrove and you're kind of driving along the side of the roads, you'll sometimes see him actually just strolling along, having a little walk. There is always security nearby, but, he does like to try to do his own thing when he can. So he's very cool and very kind of collective when it comes to his security, strangely enough.
Joe Elvin, the interesting weapon that may have to be neutralised is, of course, Donald Trump's mouth. We know that he spent the last few months dumping on the United Kingdom, dumping on Keir Starmer, dumping on our armed forces, dumping on pretty much everything to do with our great country. And it does beg the question, over 4 days, how precarious is it going to be for our King and Queen Camilla, of course, to be in close proximity to a man with the most inflammatory and unpredictable mouth in the world?
To be honest, I think, Piers, that everybody in our government is probably hugely relieved that of all the people tasked with this, it is actually King Charles who's had, 60 years of, life on the front lines of public life and public duty. He's seen off, as Prince, albeit for the most part of his life, but he's spoken to world leaders all over the world. And I actually think that the other point to make is that of all the world leaders and public figures that I can think of at the moment, King Charles is the one that I think Donald Trump might listen to, might let get a word in edgeways, might actually sort of have something sink in that he actually cares about. I feel like he's so reverential about the British royal family and his relationship with the royal family that I think that he will probably let King... I still do the Prince Charles thing sometimes. I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. Still let King Charles land a couple of points about, some of the missteps, some of the insults about things like our army, and actually let it land and let it sink in from the King, of all people.
Yeah, Katie, the interesting thing is Trump never attacks the royal family. He'll attack the renegades, Meghan and Harry, and I think he said one or two things possibly about Andrew, but nothing too bad. But he certainly has never said anything critical about Charles or Camilla or William or Kate or the late great Queen, who was one of his heroes. I mean, he spoke to me about the Queen in the most sort of poetic way. Telling me how, after the last state visit, he rang me the morning after, and he was reminding me that he was 6 when the coronation happened in '53, and his mum put him on her knee to watch it on television, which had just come out. So television was only a new thing, and that was one of the first things that was broadcast around the world. So it's been ingrained in him from that age, and I think that's why there's this sort of reverence he has to the family. And I think he also loves all the pomp and ceremony and stuff, which he's now going to get back. Which he's now going to get, be able to give the chance to return the favour. But I think that for that reason, I expect it will all go pretty smoothly because Donald Trump, he won't want to upset the apple cart with the royals.
He's not going to want to upset the apple cart, Piers. You're absolutely right. I think what's so telling is one of the first engagements we're going to see in a couple of hours' time is Charles going to visit Donald Trump's beehives. And that just says everything you need to know. I mean, this is Trump really wanting to get off on the right foot with the King. And, that will tickle Charles, I'm sure. And of course, there is the opportunity, as you say, for Trump and the First Lady to roll out the red carpet quite literally at tomorrow's state dinner. I mean, I think where we're going to perhaps see the most impact and what we will probably be reflecting on later on in the week when we're hosting our show is going to be the address to Congress, because I think that's where we're going to see Charles exercising that soft power, that diplomacy, those words you're hearing bandied around. And that's really important because that is his opportunity to address Congress and to perhaps highlight Iran, Ukraine. He's not going to be political, but it will be his opportunity to get a very carefully coded message across. And that's going to highlight, I think, quite beautifully why these tours are so important.
Well, yeah, and Grant, the thing to remember is this is a government appointed trip, and he'll be speaking on behalf of the UK government, not as an individual. I think people need to remember that. I'm told, it's quite interesting actually, that he never looks remotely nervous about anything, King Charles, but I am told that he's quite nervous about the Congress speech, because you could argue this is the most important speech of his entire life.
Absolutely.
It comes after a period of years of real turmoil with the royal family, with the death of his father, then the death of his mother, his son Harry running off to California with Meghan Markle and spray gunning them all on national television. Andrew, his brother, at the centre of this enormous Epstein scandal. It's hard to imagine in royal history, certainly modern times, a more traumatic sort of 6-7 years. And here he has a chance, the King, to stand at the centre of global power, the United States Congress, as the head of our country and state, and to reset the fabled special relationship, and to kind of remind people we're a pretty great country. I mean, that's the opportunity.
Absolutely, and I mean, it's a huge honour, and he'll know it's a huge honour. I mean, his mother had the same honour in the 90s as well, so he'll know this is a big deal. And the thing is about him is he's, you know, as I said, he's very, you know, he takes this very seriously. I mean, I can imagine that, you know, his speech, he'll spend many hours, weeks working on it. And I don't know if I'm sure you know this, but he actually, somebody once said to me, does he actually write his own speeches? Absolutely. I remember him doing them. Of course, he has them cross-checked and everything, but he does them himself. And as you said, he's been through a lot recently. And, you know, this could be a very defining moment. You know, this might be something that, this special relationship, I was saying to Katie and Joe, that there's very few people that could save this, if we're being realistic. But the King's got such an amazing way about him. He's so good with diplomacy with everybody, not just with world leaders. I've witnessed it personally. You know, he's great the way he deals with situations. So if there's a man for the job, it's him.
Joe, not everyone over here is a massive fan of the royal family. There are lots of genuine Republicans in every sense of that word, one of whom is Lauren Boebert, the congresswoman who I had on the show quite recently. Let's take a look at what she said.
Do you think it's appropriate for King George to meet with members when they come up here as they pursue the Epstein investigation because of his brother?
I wouldn't meet with him, so I don't know.
Why not?
I have 1776. I have nothing to do with King George or the royal family. I am American first, and I have no need to meet with him.
Will you attend the speech?
I probably not. I don't know.
Because
I mean, maybe I'll show up. I don't know. You guys are in there. Sometimes we get great photos. So have a great day.
Thank you.
I think she still thinks she's back in 1776 when we had a King George III, of course, who managed to lose us the reins of power in this country. So obviously she was, not only was she confused, but the interviewer was confused. Very awkward moment. But she'll be there at Congress, I'm sure. What do you think? I mean, does it matter there are Republicans in the UK who don't like the royal family? Does it matter that there are a splattering of them over here?
Look, it's a view. Everybody is entitled to their views, but I know from my own experience just how adored the royal family is in America, and I think it's rather backward thinking on Lauren's part, I think, to completely dismiss that special relationship. We've talked a lot already on this programme about how important it is for both countries, and it just feels... I don't know, like rather ignorant to just be sort of like still holding this grudge from 250 years ago that certainly our own royal family and our own government isn't.
Well, I did a joke on X, which you should never do, obviously. Nobody on X has a sense of humour, particularly about anything to do with sarcasm. But I made a point that when it was mooted that the Americans may not support us keeping the Falkland Islands and might help Argentina reclaim them, I said, no problem, Mr. President. In that case, I think we should reclaim the United States of America. Perfect timing with the 250th anniversary of independence coming up in America. And King Charles should announce this in the middle of his speech in Congress.
Well,
and of course, at least 80% of people that read it,
exactly.
well, they believed it. They took it completely literally. And then all I got was a bunch of what I would call the more lively contingent of my American following, pointing out that they drove us Brits out of America with guns and they weren't remotely afraid about doing it again.
Well, what's the most famous song from the musical Hamilton, Piers? Well, my favourite anyway, You'll Be Back, sung by King George.
There you go. There you go. Katie, in terms of importance, I do think this is a highly important moment for the reign of King Charles III. I think it is a pivotal moment for him. And it's also a reminder to the world that actually the British monarchy and the American presidency remain the two biggest institutions, I would say, in the world.
I think you're absolutely right. And Piers, you said earlier, didn't you, that this might be the most important address of his reign, and I think it very possibly will be. We were just speaking before we came on air about the importance of this tour. I've just published a piece in Vanity Fair, and part of the point I make in this piece is that while we've seen very little change in terms of the Queen's reign, that transition to Charles III, it's been deliberately low-key, without too many ructions, without too many ups and downs. That's very deliberate. the impact that the King has had on the international stage, conversely, has been quite dynamic. I mean, we've seen him take that tour to the Vatican and have that meeting of the head of the Catholic Church with the head of the Church of England. You know, real progression. Went to Australia, went to Samoa, he's going to the United States and addressing Congress for the very first time. These are really big, weighty things. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the biggest things he's doing in his reign are on an international stage. And I think that's all about projecting the importance of the royal family. I mean, constitutionally, we're completely different to the United States. We know that. We have a head of state who can't make political comments and won't do at Congress. But look at what he can achieve, which I would say no politician can. I think it's a reminder of just how powerful the royal family is and that unique role that it's able to fulfil.
We're told that they're going to avoid, Katie, anything to do with the Epstein scandal and Andrew, of course, his brother. How likely is that going to hold that position? Or are they going to get awkward people shouting awkward things, do you think?
Well, I think it's very possible they might, Piers, but then that happens over here in the UK. We've seen the King publicly heckled many times, and it's a bit like being in the midst of a security breach. He just keeps calm and carries on. He's the master of deflection. He'll know exactly what to do. I mean, my inside track was that Camilla really wanted to meet some of the victims of domestic abuse and some of Epstein's victims, but wasn't allowed to do it. At least that was what the palace were telling us. They weren't allowed to do it because of the ongoing police investigation. But I would also just make the point that when it comes to what the UK have done in terms of the Epstein files and the allegations, you know, we've a prince who's been arrested and is being questioned largely with the Epstein files at the centre of it all. So, you know, arguably we've done more over here in the UK than they have in America. So if Epstein comes up, OK, it comes up, but the King will know exactly how to deal with it.
Yeah, Grant, the other thing we haven't mentioned, of course, is the King's health. He's still battling cancer, so far as we know, still receiving treatment. And I'm told he gets sort of good days and bad days, and some days he's very tired from the treatment and so on. You know, he's in his mid-70s. This is quite a grueling trip to be doing when you've got cancer.
Well, we were just talking about this, actually. I mean, that's the thing we've got to remember is that he is still having treatment. And as you've said, he has good days. I've been told that he has good days and bad days. And I think we can even sometimes tell. You can, you know, just by looking at him, sometimes he looks like he's doing really well. And other days, you kind of get worried about him. I think the thing is, Piers, he's aware that he's got this ongoing battle, and he's aware, if we're being realistic, he might be thinking, right, while I'm able to do these kind of overseas tours and duties, he's going to make the most of it. So when some people said to me, he seems to be doing quite a lot for somebody that's going through treatment. Of course he is, because while he's able to, he'll want to do the best he can with the time that's available to him. So hopefully he's got a long life and a long reign, but at the same time, he's realistic, he's not stupid, and he'll be making sure that he's making the best of his time and being able to do the job that he's there to do.
Joe, finally, a very exciting royal news, nothing to do with the King or the President, but the launch of the Royals Uncensored, our brand new channel on the Uncensored family stable. And we've got some very special guests that are going to be involved in your debut, so we want to make sure everyone watches.
Absolutely.
And because we're such a well-oiled machine, Bianca Nobilo, host of History Uncensored, will be covering the surprisingly salacious history of state visits on her channel too. So we're morphing all our channels together in a massive royal historical push this week. But Joe, for those who are maybe watching this and are like intrigued by what you're going to unleash, give me a little flavour of what's to come.
If you are in any way interested in the royal family and what they're up to and all the analysis behind the meaning of everything you see on the public stage, then you will not want to miss this show. We are going to be forensically obsessive about the royal family, what they're doing, whether they should be doing it, what they're up to, and we will be having some of the world's leading experts and authors coming in to give us their takes as well. And, you know, we all get along very well, we three, but there will be room for fiery debate. There will be all sorts of different opinions, but they will run the gamut. So I really don't think you want to miss it. It starts on 30th of April.
Great, and the one thing I know about you, Katie, Nicholl, is you love a good royal scoop. So I'm looking forward to a few of those as well.
I do, you'll get them, don't you worry.
I'm very excited. It's going to be a great new channel. The Royals Uncensored launches on Thursday, April the 30th. Best of luck to all of you, and hopefully we'll get you back on my channel as well regularly when the stories demand it, and we'll have what they call, I think, channel integration, which I'm very excited about, whatever it means. So thank you all very much and best of luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.